Welcome to the Heritage Show, where we delve into stories of healing, empowerment, and resilience of women around the globe. Today's guest is Kaitlin Zhang, CEO of Oval Branding, a company that helps individuals and organizations build strong global brands. In this episode, Kaitlin shares her story from China to Canada and to the UK, and the mindset shifts that helped her grow as a global communicator and entrepreneur. She unpacks her 5-step framework for building a personal brand and offers practical strategies from public speaking, emotional connection to cross-cultural storytelling, and using AI wisely. This episode is packed with clarity, strategy, and fresh perspective for anyone who's ready to elevate their personal brand with purpose and confidence. Let's dive in. Hello, Kaitlin. Welcome to the Heritage Show. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you about personal branding, about branding and strategy, and much more. Welcome.
Thank you for inviting me, Lynn. A pleasure to be here.
So personal branding is such an important topic nowadays, whether you're an entrepreneur, a creator, or perhaps someone want to find a new job. Even for individual that might not look for any new opportunity, I think how we present ourselves to this world can really make or break our future or opportunities. So you are the expert in this field. My first question to you is, what is the impact that you're trying to make and the mission that you are having?
Well, one of the Chinese clients that I had wanted to promote the brand in the West. And then the thing that we tell them is everyone is interested to know about your product and interested to know about your services, but oftentimes a lot of my Chinese clients are too shy to promote themselves. Because
Yeah.
in Chinese culture, right, we want to be humble, want to seen as not bragging about ourselves too much, which is sometimes quite opposite to Americans, isn't it? And I would tell them, no, it's really important actually for the founder, the CEO, or at least the spokesperson from the company to tell them about your brand vision and stories, to add that personal touch, add a human face to the product and services that you're selling and promoting. Because oftentimes when I work, especially in cross-border, people are not meeting the first time in real life. People are finding you online, right? They're Googling who people are. They're looking up your social media or your company website, your personal profile on there. So it's really important to make sure that you have a good, well-maintained and visible personal brand so that at least online people can find you and form their good first impression.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. What I hear from you is personal branding is not only relevant for individuals, but also very critical for brands and products out there want to really make this personal touch and connection with their consumers or their end users.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And what I hear, some keyword you highlighted was also very interesting in terms of this culture difference and in terms of the mindset of what personal branding is and why it is so critical. On this topic, before we jump into personal branding, I would like to first understand a bit better your stories because you've grown up in Xi'an and Shenzhen, also Vancouver. I wonder if you could share with us more on your personal journey. How did that lead to personal branding and where you are right now?
Yeah, so I'm Chinese born in Xi'an and grew up in Shenzhen as a child. So I spent the first third of my life, up to like 10, 11-ish, in China. And then when I was 11, my family and I immigrated to Canada, Vancouver, Canada. That's where I did finished my primary, secondary education and university there. That's about the next third of my life. And I went to the States to work for a little while, and I realized America wasn't quite right for me. I was in San Francisco, and after that, I said I need to move somewhere. At age of 23, I decided I need to move somewhere that's got creative energy, entrepreneurial spirit, English speaking, that's going to have like really cool opportunities to travel too. So I moved to London. That's a natural choice. And I've been so happy since when I was 23. I've been here for so I pretty much spent about a third of my life in China, a third of my life in North America, and a third in the UK. Hence why when I built my company at the age of 26, one of the core offerings that we do is in cross-border, cross-cultural branding and marketing, working a lot between UK, China, and also the States. And that's been great. One of the other things that you mentioned is we do personal branding services. So when I was first starting out in London, I was working for a tech startup. And one day the CEO and founder came in and she was a bit flustered. And then she was like, oh no, I just had a meeting with an investor and the investor really liked our product. They really like our idea. They think it's a great idea. But the investor, when they were Googling us, they couldn't find anything. And they just didn't know if the team was going to be able to deliver. They weren't sure who the team are because there was no personal brand built up for any of us. And so we actually ended up losing that investment opportunity. So I thought to myself, actually, is there a market here for especially founders, CEO startups, for brands to invest into the personal brands of the core people? And certainly that's something I've been doing for the last while too. So we worked with government officials, venture capitalists, authors, artists, celebrities, like all different types of walks of people, as well as people who are just looking for their next job and their next opportunity and wanted to test that out by building up their brand. That's kind of a nutshell of my journey.
Thank you for sharing. I hear something very interesting as you grow up, move around the globe, and now you are building company and brand and support them build their business cross-border, across different culture. And then you highlighted this need for company to have a face in front of their brand to make this personal connection there. And I wonder how company can start doing it, because oftentimes there might be a concern of, let's say a CEO is too busy, or
Mm-hmm,
maybe the personality might not be the most extroverted or outspoken one.
mm-hmm.
So how does company can start and go about it?
Yeah. So I was saying not every company needs to have a personal brand built. There are some companies that are probably makes more sense to have just the company be the brand. An example for that is banks, probably, right?
Yeah,
So banks, they want to emit a sense of stability, trust.
right.
So to put a lot of their brand value into an individual, that's a lot of pressure on an individual. And also if this individual does not behave or they write the wrong social media post or something like that, it's going to be potentially very damaging to a brand that needs to be have that kind of stability and trust. So maybe not necessarily every single brand, but of course there are banking brands like Richard Branson, Virgin Money, that type of brands that do work well.
Yeah,
Secondly is not the CEO or the founder, they don't necessarily have to be the face of the company. Mm.
wow.
Oftentimes that's true, especially if you're starting out and you want to gain momentum and you're just available, right? You want to do whatever it takes to build up your company brand. So that works. But if you know this for some reason the CEO and the founder doesn't want to do that, there are a couple more options. One of them is finding a spokesperson. Is there a core employee who's, going to be with the company longer term, is invested into the company? Can they become the face? Maybe they're really extroverted. Maybe they love being on video and live stream and go to speaking opportunities and wonderful, right? That's a great partnership. Another thing that they could do is using a mascot. So not necessarily a human kind of connection, but perhaps
Mm,
a designed mascot in some way that's going to also create that kind of more longer term brand building that's going to help support the company to have that human connection a little bit more.
right.
I'm not so sure about AI influencers at this stage. Let's see how they go, but there
Yes,
are companies that are doing that too.
that's an interesting topic that we can discuss later. So what I hear you is not necessarily every brand or company need personal branding. Depends on the nature of the company
Yeah,
and
for sure.
the perception that the brand of the company need to establish in the market. And also, it doesn't necessarily always need to be the founder or the CEO. If there is anyone in the company that might be a founding member, a leadership, or a core person that could represent the value and the image of the company, that could go as well. And then you mentioned the third word. I didn't quite get is
A mascot is like a character. For example, McDonald's will have the Ronald McDonald clown
right.
character. So a
Yeah.
character that could be the face of your company
Yeah.
to promote it in a certain way. The good thing
Perhaps.
about having a character as a intellectual property of the company is you can expand it to different medias and that character doesn't get tired, right? So you can just have them work a lot more and
Right.
be available a lot more. So that's another option. But of course, that's less human to human connection.
Yeah.
So there are pros and cons to
Yeah.
using that strategy. But it does work for lots of companies.
Right. Especially when there is perhaps a storytelling and history
Absolutely.
components into it,
Yeah.
it makes it kind of feel like there is a heritage, there is a
Yeah.
history in it,
For sure.
and make it more trustworthy in
Yeah.
some way. And then you talk about perhaps future there might be AI influencer. And now I already see there are so many tools in the market and can create the AI image of an individual that I record some videos and
Yeah.
audios. They can already make new ones without me being in front of the camera, which is really mind blowing. So we can touch upon that. That's interesting. And then let's say a brand now decided to have this person representing their brand. And what's the next step? Because I think the brand image or brand marketing can still be very different from how you shape this person's image and this personal branding. How do you connect these two, but somehow
Mm-hmm.
also not confuse people between the
Yeah.
individual and the company, if that question makes sense?
Yeah, for sure. So far we talked a lot about companies are needing a person to have a personal brand to promote them, but we also can think about it for just everyday individuals, creators, employees that are looking for their jobs, right? Say
Yeah.
they also need to be building up their brand too. One of the things that in my research has shown that in the US, more than 70% of HR professionals have rejected a candidate because of their online presence. That could mean that they have a negative online presence, say said something not appropriate on social media or something like that, or they don't have a presence and they're just
Right.
invisible, so there's no way for me to check. If I'm seeing one candidate that's got an amazing profile that have been writing about the industry that they want to work in, have been showing some expertise in demonstrating some of their connections, right, then I'm more likely to hire that person versus somebody who has zero presence because I
Yeah.
just don't know what I'm getting, right? If everything else being equal. So I think the strategy for building whether that's the company founder type personal brand or a creator employee type of personal brand, the strategies are the same. So it's a 5% process that I teach my people who attend my workshops or who get training on this. And before I go into the 5 steps, the first thing that we have to say is that the biggest misconception about personal branding is that it's about you.
Mm.
Okay. So if you
It's so
think that
true.
personal branding is building up myself and promoting me and it's me, bragging about everything I've done and everything I can do, right? That's not really personal branding. That's not the essence of it. So if I can get everyone to take away something today is personal branding is not about you.
Okay.
It's showing up, especially online personal branding, is showing up in a way that you are clear about how you can add value to other people.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that's why if you have that mindset shift, then you can understand that it's not about bragging. It's not about self-promotion. It's
Yeah.
about how do you be available and be able to have people search you and find you so that they can tap into the amazing abilities that you have that you can then serve others. Right? If you think about it that way, it's going to completely change it.
Wow. That's really a mind blowing perspective that you brought up. I think that's so true because a lot of my friends Now they look at how creators and influencers making a sensation on different platform, and they always feel hesitated because exactly the misconception you highlighted is people will think they are bragging about themselves. They perceived as very, how to say this word, flamboyant and not sincere. But I don't think that's necessarily true, because as you highlighted, as long as your mindset and your goal is to serve other people, is to deliver value, and this will not be the case. So this is such a good reminder for us to first set the mindset right, and then next will be strategy and action and
Exactly. Let's
technique.
get that right.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so that's first is about the mindset. And then another blocker or obstacle I would imagine, even for myself, before I start posting regularly on LinkedIn, one of my biggest fear was, oh my God, all my colleague, friends, relatives will see what I say, how I behave, my voice, my image online. And I feel extremely scared and embarrassed to show up in front of, let's say, a camera or even just write an article. I think this is such a common fear that a lot of us have. What would you suggest people who have this fear to overcome it?
I think that it's very common and that many of us are sometimes a bit self-conscious, right?
Yeah,
Whether that's giving a talk in person or filming yourself on a video, that's scary, right? And sometimes even writing an article, writing a LinkedIn post can be scary because you're putting yourself out there.
totally.
Again, coming back to the core of personal branding, it's about serving others. So when you're doing that, you're not promoting yourself. When you're writing something or you're saying something, it's to help other people. And if you can think about it that way, then yes, it is uncomfortable sometimes, but I am doing something of value because I am here to show up to help others, right? The
Yeah,
same way that any other job helps other people. And this
yeah,
is just the way our society has evolved, the internet has evolved for us to have an amplified reach than our normal communities. And we can leverage that to help even more people. And that's exciting.
totally. So when you talk about these components about helping others, I think that's definitely easier, I would say, for creators or for entrepreneur who has a business, has a product that they want to sell or
Yes.
promote, which solve a problem. But how about those, let's say, employees who are looking for a new opportunity or just want to network, perhaps look for a new career, or simply just want to build an online image? This would help them get more opportunities.
Yeah. So sometimes a lot of HR people that are hiring could get influenced by the kind of following that you have on social media, the kind of expertise that you have demonstrated in your area. So imagine if you are somebody that's working in the creative industry like me, doing branding or marketing or something like that, but you're really interested in AI and you want to kind of transition your career more geared towards that. But
Yeah,
who's going to give you a job without really, everyone's quite new to this, right? It's very difficult to kind of really demonstrate your expertise on this through work experience because most of us don't have that work experience yet. So the way you do that is you start thinking, what are some ways that I can show my expertise in this new field that I'm interested in? Can I write some articles about AI? Can I interview other experts and turn that into some kind of content? Can I, just posting about my learning journey and the failures that I've had learning about
yeah,
AI just day-to-day basis on LinkedIn. Even just sharing that learning is really helpful. And then once you start doing that, you start building a reputation as somebody who is interested in that. And then you are able to better attract the right opportunities to you and also demonstrate to recruiters that you have somebody who is willing to learn and willing to share your expertise.
yeah.
And that's really crucial because most of us really nowadays are not going to be in one job for our whole lives.
Mm.
Right, we are going to be switching different things, and having more of a portfolio career. So in order to do that, it's important to try different areas and then also kind of build up your brand so that you have that network and you have that demonstration of your expertise.
Yeah.
And that's tremendously changed my career because I could not have gotten a lot of opportunities I did without doing that.
Wow. That's so true. I hear you talk about this importance of using personal brand to build your thought leadership, even to share the stories, the learnings
Yeah.
could make a difference. So on this point, I wonder, let's say one decides to start building their personal brand, in which platform they should go and what content they should post and how often. So those are very operational questions,
Yeah.
but a lot of us are very overwhelmed by the options out there.
Yeah. So the 5-step process that I normally teach, you have to go through them in order. And then what you are asking about where to post and how often to post and what to post, that's like step 4.
Okay.
So let's rewind a little bit back.
Yes.
Yeah, that's very common. Everyone comes up to me and asks me, what should I do with social media? Right. But let's take a step back and think about step 1 is building your positioning. Right. So understanding, which lane do you want to make yourself known in? Which areas, it could be more than one, which areas do you want to be known in, right? So for me, I'm known as somebody who is a CEO of a branding and marketing company, but another role that I have is a speaker. So I do lots of speaking opportunities and I also do acting. So I'm also an actor. So these are kind of very different spheres that I operate in, but I can have those brands simultaneously. So I've understood what my positioning is and what my key messages are and who are the people that I'm serving. So I need to be really clear on that first. And then secondly is building up your profile in terms of visuals. It's good to have really good headshots, right? Good images, possibly some nice videos as well. And if you can, be more visual inclined, you can get a personal logo and even colors and fonts that really help highlight your personal brand, especially for creators, like if you're on Instagram or something, you want to make sure your profile has a consistent type of visual language so that people can remember that and identify with it. And then thirdly is having a platform. So when I say platform, what I mean is one central location on the internet of your control, that you can display all the core information about yourself. So typically, it's normally a personal website, which is huge because you are really in control of that. You're not going to be worried that, let's say you're a TikToker, right? You're not worried that one day TikTok is not going to be there anymore, right? So your personal website, you're in control of it. You can edit all the information on there. You can present it however you want to present it. Okay. But not everyone's going to need that. But a lot of people, it's going to be LinkedIn for professionals. Right. So doing professionals on LinkedIn, you can build it really well. And then that could be your core place, your core platform to showcase yourself. And once you have those kind of core basics down, then we can think more about the producing the content and the platforms. So coming back to your question about which channels, how often, what kind of content, that comes back to what are your goals, right? What are the services and products you're offering? Where are your audiences? You have to go to the platforms where your audiences are. So for me, LinkedIn is a huge one, but not so much Instagram because I work with tech companies. I work with financial services companies. I work with cross-border companies, less kind of the Instagram demographic. So a lot of my brand promotions and more networking is more on LinkedIn. Right? So you have to see where audiences are. Secondly, you also need to see what you want to do, right? Not everyone needs to be on video. Not everyone needs to have a podcast. You have to see, do I enjoy being on video? Do I like podcasts or do I like writing? Right? Some people prefer just to be kind of have a nice profile picture, but then just write. And that's totally great too. So you have to understand where is the intersection between your audience and your kind of unique characteristics that determine which channels you want to be on. Um, and the type of content and how frequently you should post, that is something that you probably need to, test and
Experiment.
try out, test and trial, and depends on how much time, effort you have and how much budget you have as well. So that's different person to person.
And the step 5?
The last step is partnership. So once you've done all that, you have to leverage partners to build your brand. So this could be brand partners. For example, we're on a podcast today. We can cross promote each other. If you work with other conferences or things like that, then you can promote the conference. They can have you as a speaker. It's just an example. Another brand partnership is perhaps products and services that are adjacent to what you're doing. So if I run a branding and marketing agency, Sometimes my clients will say, I'm a startup, I need branding, but also I need an accountant.
Yeah,
Right. So I'll be like,
complimentary.
okay, great. Let me introduce you to somebody else so we can have that kind of partnership. And then there's media partnerships. That means promoting yourself on various media platforms, perhaps with influencers, perhaps just traditional media, newspapers, magazines, TVs, things like that. So, but you have to do the first four to get to five,
Yeah,
because if you're trying to reach out to a journalist and you don't have a great picture, you don't have a place where they can find information on you, you're not really clear on your positioning and what you're offering, no journalist is ever going to care about that, right?
yeah.
So you need to have those basic foundational steps ready, do them in
Mm.
order, and then come to the end.
Wow, that's super cool. I love these 5 steps. And I think exactly as I asked earlier, oftentimes we jump right into the operational details
Yeah.
without thinking at a deeper level, foundational level, who we are actually serving and who we are trying to solve a problem for. And
Yeah.
then also the basic element of establishing a profile, the brand style, the visual language you highlighted
Yeah.
on the second point, as well as somewhere you mentioned, I really love it, a platform where you have the control and not
Hmm.
entirely necessarily rely on other
Yeah.
platform or decisions or marketplace and so on. And then talk about the content strategy, about what you enjoy making and intersect with where your audience actually engaging and presence, and then partner with relevant product or
Yeah.
creator influence and make it a well-rounded content machine to support you to build your personal branding. That's genius. Thank you so much for sharing. And
That's a
I've
very good
already
summary.
learned so much through this last
Yeah.
10 minutes of conversation. And you brought up something really interesting about your other roles other than being the founder. You're also a speaker and actor, which is really, really fascinating because I'd love to personally have more public speaking opportunity to also support my personal branding. But public speaking, it's such a scary thing.
Yeah.
It's apparently ranked as the second biggest fear after death. So I wonder if you could suggest one thing for us to overcome that fear, what would that be?
Well, only one thing.
Okay, more things if you have, of course, welcome.
If I can say one thing, I would say don't try to do it yourself. Like
Mm,
most things in life, if you get help by experts, by people, by resources, you're going to be able to manage it so much better.
yeah,
Um, that's true for most things in life, isn't it? It's just better if we help each other.
yeah.
Find somebody who could, help you with that. There are different elements to look at, whether or not it's a psychological thing that you can kind of think about tackling, whether or not it's just practicing, learning some techniques. There are some training that you can go to get that kind of thing, whether or not it's just there's not, like you said, Lynn, perhaps you're not having enough opportunities to do it yet. So you're just
Mm,
looking for more speaking opportunities. And that's a great way to help build up your
yeah.
confidence in yourself. There are a couple of tools that I can recommend. Like, first of all, there are different speaking types of clubs and training. Probably one of the most well-known ones would be Toastmasters. Yeah, so they have international branches around the world. I've been to a few of their sessions. You can go and from the first session, they get you to try a little tiny bit of public speaking and then they help work your way up and then teach techniques as well. So that's
Yeah.
really good. For people who are more adventurous, there are other things you can do. There's acting classes. Acting classes are wonderful because you have
Yeah.
to shed your self-consciousness. And that's
Right.
okay because you're a different person. You're not you, you're a different character. So you can act
Mm,
like completely differently. You can try improv as well. That's also fun. For people who are like a company spokesperson or CEO founder, oftentimes we would suggest media training. So
yeah.
media training is not very long. It could be just a few hours. This puts you in front of camera. and sets you up to ask you some interview questions as if it's like a TV interview. The person will get trained on how to speak, what type of speed they should be speaking at, how to be clearer, how to use different emotions like happiness and quiet and tones, and how to deflect questions as well that you don't want to answer.
Yeah, wow,
Right?
that's
So there are
tricky.
techniques to be learned. So if I can say that, like, the best thing to do is try to surround yourself with other people and resources to help you. A last thing
Mm.
to mention is the Talk Like TED. TED Talks, they have a book as well on how to be a good speaker. So find those resources, get help, and take it one talk at a time. And then, yeah, I think
Wow, that's super helpful. I love that the acting class part as well, as I used to do some small acting growing up. So that's definitely something I would love to try. And when you mentioned about asking for help and surround yourself with people that have expertise in this area, I think that's probably one of the biggest hurdles that we have to overcome, because we
Mm,
often have this limiting belief of we have to do things alone and
yeah,
it's
for sure.
embarrassing to ask for help. But this is exactly the way to be better at it, because there are people actually are expert like you in this area. So thank you for reminding us for this. And when we talk about practicing, preparing for public speaking, I was thinking a lot of us either work for a corporate or being a creator, we often have opportunity to, let's say, give a presentation or a workshop,
Mm-hmm,
not necessarily in front of a massive audience,
mm-hmm,
but still require us to somehow tell a story and
mm-hmm.
make an impact through even half an hour or 1 hour time, which is
Yeah,
very limited.
yeah.
So what would you suggest are the effective ways to prepare those events and
Mm-hmm,
deliver the maximum impact?
yeah. So I'll take an example of a pitch deck presentation or a pitch. Right? Oftentimes, when we're building brands for companies that are in the startup stage, they
Mm,
need to go on to fundraise, and they're standing in front of investors, and it's very high stakes.
right.
How do they then communicate their message clearly, as well as being confident in the way that they're speaking? Okay, so a couple of things that it kind of takes the pressure off, because guess what? People will only remember 40% of what you're saying anyway.
Mm,
Okay.
yeah,
Um, and that's even if they don't listen, that would be less. So
right.
you have to understand that the human brain is wandering everywhere. There's
All the
going to be
time.
thinking about other stuff. So keep it simple.
Okay.
Okay. Keep your message really, and then also repeat yourself. Start off by saying what you're going to say. In the middle, say it. In the end, summarize it for people. And if there are any to-dos or next steps that you want them to take, call to actions, be clear. Please fund our company, or please try our product, or whatever you want, right? Make sure that you have a very clear next action step for the person.
Yeah.
And then one little tip that I always have, whether it's the students that I sometimes work in universities or founders that are trying to pitch for really high stakes investments, one tip that I have is to do something tactile. By tactile, I mean off the screen. We're too
Mm,
reliant on screens all the time. If you can bring a physical thing, let's say you are trying to pitch for a new product to clean water or something like that.
mm,
Can you bring two jugs of water that's one is dirty, one is clean, right? Can you do a
why?
science experiment? Can you bring something that's got a wow factor?
Yeah.
People are going to remember that. Can you give the other person something to touch?
Mm,
Because we have to engage our senses. Maybe it's
right.
to touch, to smell, to eat. Because all we're doing in presentations is listening and seeing a screen. And it gets boring, right? But
Yeah.
if you imagine, like, there's now an interesting thing to touch and to engage with and to interact with and to eat and to smell, right? That's
Yeah.
going to make that presentation so much more impactful, so much more interesting.
Wow.
And they're going to be talking about you for days, hopefully, after the presentation is over.
Yeah.
And guess who's going to get funding? Who's going to get hired? It's people
Mm,
who are memorable.
yeah.
Whether or not it's the best idea, the most best research, the best that you try to do that as well. But these are just little tips that can take already great presentation much better.
Wow. I love this physical object and having activate your five senses is so
Exactly.
powerful.
Yeah.
I literally post a linking post about how to
Oh, yeah, I saw
reduce,
that. Yes,
yeah,
yes, the five senses. Yes,
yes,
absolutely.
exactly,
Absolutely.
reduce anxiety and be present using five senses, and exactly align with what you mentioned about how can we activate our emotions and memories by activate our senses and really get into the body instead of overly in our head and perhaps only focus on visual. So love this. But maybe a small follow-up question. What if this product is such an digital or um, not physical product, that how can you connect these two? Would you use a metaphor or something similar to tell a story
Yeah.
around that?
So, like, what if the product's completely digital? What if you are doing a Zoom meeting, right? You can't give
Mm,
people something to touch in a Zoom meeting. Okay. It doesn't even necessarily have to be something that's that related. Okay. I'll give you an
mm,
example. First of all, humor, right? Humor
yeah,
is also a great way to get people paying attention to you again
right.
and get the atmosphere changed. And one of the things I sometimes like to do if feeling like this meeting is quite long and I definitely need something to perk everyone's energy up, my
Mm,
secret weapon is to bring my cat into the room.
wow.
And when there's a little cat with a little tail walking through like the screen, sorry, I don't have him
Yeah.
today, but if he's walking through the screen, like immediately everyone lights up,
Yes,
right? Everyone's attention
totally.
is now back on the screen and not looking at the other tabs they have open.
Yeah.
Right. So it's about kind of what else can you do to make it more out of the ordinary, more interesting. That's going to grab attention. Right.
Mm.
So those are just some ideas. You can also do magic. That's also another thing that could be
Right.
interesting too, right? That could work on the screen. Why not?
Totally. Yeah. Love
But of
it.
course, the message has to try to tie it to the message that you're trying to
Mm.
deliver,
Yeah, of
right?
course.
To your product and your service. Yeah.
Yes. So I love what you mentioned about using physical, something touchable, and um, make something memorable. Because exactly you mentioned only 40% people will only remember 40% of what you say. And I also remembered um, there is a way of saying people mostly not necessarily remember what you say, but remember how do you make them
Making them
feel.
feel absolutely.
On this point, what exactly does that mean? Does that mean there has to be something emotional, something about how you're perceived? How do you bring that type of emotional connection into a session, which, for instance, an online meeting or a workshop?
I think a lot of it has to do with the work that you do outside of the presentation.
Mm,
So it's not necessarily, I am going to do these tips and tricks in the presentation itself to make people feel a certain way.
yeah,
What you want to get to is day to day, as you're talking to people, day to day conversations, the vibe that you're giving, the confidence that you're giving, the humor that you're giving, right? You got to build that up outside of that crucial presentation.
right.
And to have that is it's working on getting to know yourself, working on getting to know what your strengths are in terms of communication, and kind of further developing those things and boosting your confidence outside of special work presentations, right?
Yeah,
And
that's in our day to day and
in a day to day, yeah.
in learning ourselves, cultivate self awareness, leverage our strength. So that's a very powerful reminder. And on this topic, do you have any resources or book or people that you think are master in this area that we can learn from?
Oh, there, I think everyone needs to find the right people
Mm,
for them,
okay.
right? So one of the things that I've noticed is that especially for Asian women like us, there are not that many role models out there,
Totally.
right?
Mm,
Who are very confident speakers that we can see day to day all the time in the
mm,
media. That's just not, they're just not there.
not
So
exist.
we need to do is we need to go find those amazing like people who perhaps it could be used for that if they look like us or sound like us.
Yeah.
who can then inspire us. So one of the things that I've noticed for me is that it's really helpful for me to be following other Asians, female Asian leaders who are really confident, who are wonderful at speaking, who are wonderful at delivering their content. So
Yeah.
following those influencers or celebrities or academics really help me see that it's possible, right? We're not
Mm,
just a minority being represented in the media, but there's actually a lot of people that we can actively try to follow to help us gain our confidence. So some examples are like including actors and celebrities like Aquafina and
mm,
Michelle Yeoh, who just won an Oscar. There's
yeah.
director Lulu Wang. There is academic professor Angela Duckworth, who has a book and also her podcast too. So these
Mm,
are like wonderful people. You can go on TED as well, TED Talks, to see who are the people that are perhaps share your cultural heritage or can help inspire you through different ways too, and following those people and supporting them as well. So I think seeing is believing, right? If we see that
right.
people who look like us can do it, then we can believe that we can do it too.
Yeah, absolutely. I really love and resonates with you mentioned about the importance of having and finding those role models that
Hmm.
we look up to that share similar background and help us build that confidence and allow us to see the possibilities.
So, Lynn, in your day-to-day life, are there people that you follow that can help inspire you to be better at communicating?
Yeah, that's a good question. I really loved Ven Jan. I think he's Malaysian Australian. He's really good at public speaking and teaching around the world how to have a stronger presence on the stage, how to use your voice as an instrument
Mm,
to have your message come across in an authentic and convincing way. And I also love Vanessa Von Edwards. She said she is a recovered awkward person, used to be really bad at social interactions and
mm,
making friends. And nowadays, she has done research with thousands of people and taught thousands of people around the world how to be a better communicator, how to be
yeah.
more charismatic. I found those teachers are really important and impactful in how I shape my communication style. Of course, I'm still learning, and I would hope to learn also much more from you on how to be a better communicator on my podcast, on other speaking engagement. So I hope
Well, I mean,
that's,
we're all still learning.
yeah.
I am currently learning how to use my voice better
Wow.
because I realized that after 2 hours of speaking, my throat tends to get a bit dry and tired. So
Mm,
I'm trying to practice that muscle and trying to learn how to speak better from my diaphragm. So we're all
right.
learning, and we need to surround ourselves with experts who are going
Yes,
to help us and support us. So
absolutely.
wonderful that you have those examples with you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How
it's
do
so
you
good.
learn that? Because as you mentioned, the diaphragm, this is something very interesting in my freediving career. Diaphragm is so important
Hmm.
because it regulates our breath. And I think breath is also a very important component of how do we project our voice. And also, I grew up singing a lot, and my parents
Yeah.
are picking opera singer. So I learned from them how to better use my voice, at least on the stage when I sing. And I wonder how can I better translate that into my communication. So how do you practice that? Is there a vocal teacher that you're learning from?
Yeah, so I actually use a singing app that's
Mm,
got an AI tool in it that helps you practice. I feel like that's maybe not necessary for you because you already
yeah.
have that singing background. I don't have that background.
Oh, thank you.
I imagine um one of the things that you could do is to try to copy famous speeches that have
Mm,
a variety of ways of speaking, right?
yeah,
Possibly a politician, possibly a famous person or something on YouTube, where that
right.
person is speaking more dynamically, right? If you're trying to learn better at pauses, go look up some videos of someone who's very good at
Yeah.
stopping and really saying what they want to say,
Right.
right? And then you're practicing by copying them. And it's like acting training. You're basically learning through copying and through practicing.
Yeah.
That's one of the ways you can do through that. And I just sing and I try to practice singing to help me build up those muscles a little bit more.
Awesome. Love that. And it's a good reminder you said about politicians, because I think they
Mm,
are very well trained in their tonality, in how to emphasizing, how to use
mm.
speed, pause, volume,
Yes.
pitch, so many different
Hand gestures as
varieties.
well.
Yes. Their body language, their
Yes.
facial expression, so many things in communication that we can learn and master. Such a science and also a piece of art. Love it. So now we talk so much about personal branding, about public speaking. I'm actually very curious about your career, your business, and your
Mm,
entrepreneur journey as you build overall branding, which
hmm
is world famous agencies in this area. Could you share with us more on your company's mission and who are you serving and the problem are you solving?
Yeah. So I started Oval Branding in 2016. I can't believe it's almost 10 years now. Next year will
Yeah.
be 10 years. And I, because I'm always been interested in technology,
Mm,
I worked a lot with tech companies, recently a lot more with AI related companies to help build a brand messaging, and marketing ideas too. So we have a team based in London, as well as in China. We have a team, and there's also team members in the States and around the world. So the company is built up to be completely remote, and we all just work online at our different times, but we're all expertise in this area to come together for client projects. So technology is one of the main areas we work in. We also do a lot with financial services. So my company has the privilege of working with a lot of the biggest venture capital firms and private equity firms in China and the UK and the States.
mm,
And the accumulation of assets that we've helped raise, support and raise of is over £1 billion now. So we've worked really with a lot of really massive funds and understanding how to support those funds, what the limited partners, the LPs are looking for when they're doing their fundraising, right?
mm.
So that's an area that we're in as well. And other areas we do work in kind of gaming. That's one big kind of
Giving.
growing industry, as well as government work. So for the personal branding workshop, for example, I will do training and workshop for UK civil servants. These are government officials who need to have that personal branding training, and particularly to managing their reputation as well as privacy protection. So these are the things that we'll do on the personal branding side. Generally speaking, I would say my really passion is brand building with a focus on kind of tech finance as well as cross border.
Yeah.
Um, so the cross
Love it.
border is helping companies enter into different markets, mainly the ones I know in China, Asia, as well as North America. Yeah.
Yeah. I hear this cross border brand building a
Mm,
lot. And nowadays there are so many trade and cross-border exchange from West and East and vice versa.
mhm,
So
yeah.
you've worked in both worlds and
Mm.
having been working in so many different industries and locations, what are the biggest learnings from this experience?
So one of the biggest things about entering into a new market when you're building a brand is to listen first,
Mm,
right? And to do that market research to understand the cultural nuances and the cultural differences in the different contexts.
yeah,
The same product cannot be marketed in the same way in one location to another, to
right.
one group of people to another. That's even true, even if it's just within the UK. Things in London and things in another location is just different,
Different.
right?
Mm.
So we really have to be customer centric and to take the time to understand the local ways of marketing and local ways of doing things. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. Not only in cross-border business building, but also in all areas in our
Yeah, for
lives,
sure.
which we often overlook. So yes, to listen and to really understand the need of local market, local
Mm,
users are key here. And from your experience working, for instance, bringing brand from Europe to China,
mhm.
and then bringing brands from China to Europe or
Yeah.
US, what are some of the difference in terms of their style or their behavior? Is there something you think each can learn from each other?
Yeah, for sure. So, um, for the companies that we work with that go into China, right? There's
Mm,
a lot to be learned about doing marketing in China.
mm,
China has grown really rapidly in the last 20 years, for sure, 20,
yeah,
30 years. And there's something called China speed,
right,
right? So how fast things are getting done in China is sometimes inconceivable here,
totally.
in Europe. And so there's a lot we can learn from like kind of efficiency and also the expectation and how things should be done. Secondly is China is a very much a mobile first country. So
Mm,
the mobile adoption in the country is very massive. The e-commerce platforms in China are also huge as well.
yeah,
Social media apps like WeChat, they do everything.
super
So there's a
app.
lot that we can learn in the
Yeah,
West about understanding the mobile first attitude that they have, the mobile first marketing that they need to adopt as well. And also another thing that's doing really big in China is live streaming.
mm,
Live streaming and shopping is like very much intertwined in China.
yeah,
There's need for especially consumer brands to understand the power of that when they're going into China. For the West, I think there's a lot for Chinese brands to learn as well. So one of the things that because China has developed so fast, there are
mm,
so many brands that come and go. Right. Every
yeah,
time I go back to China, there is like a new bubble tea shop that I have never heard of.
yeah,
Right. I'm sure
absolutely.
you had that experience as well. You're like, I've never heard of this shop, but let's try it.
Yeah, it's a very
But there's
competitive market.
very competitive, lots of coming and goings all the time
Mm,
in everything,
yeah,
right? So, but China, we're starting to see there are a few brands that's have a little bit longer heritage now. Um, some that come to mind, including like maybe Xiaomi or
mm,
like Huawei or some brands like that, right? So they
yeah,
have a little bit more national recognition, international recognition, as well as a longevity to their brand,
mm,
right? So what those bigger companies, those brands need to learn from the West is how do we then build that heritage in our brand.
yeah, yeah.
So working in the UK, like all the time, lots of the products that I'm using every day, they're made like hundreds, like not hundreds, maybe 100, 200 years ago,
So, mm,
right? And this brand has been here for 200 years. They have royal approval, and
mm,
we've been serving the royal family for 200 years. Like it's mind-boggling to how long and amazing these heritages are, and how do they protect those brands and adapt those brands throughout
yeah,
all the changes and all the years. So that's
mm,
something that Chinese brands are just starting to think about and understand and to establish
mm,
because everything is so new. So that's certainly something that as a cross-border branding agency that understands both sides, that's something of value that we can help with brands.
That's super interesting. I see how different culture and the different behavior and context actually shape how the brand develops itself. And you talk about this word heritage, like
Yeah.
our show is
Yeah,
the
exactly.
heritage show, which is really relevant. And I
Yeah.
thought it's also relevant at an individual level because I wonder, as someone grew up to age around 10, 11, you mentioned then moving abroad.
Mhm.
And I guess there's this blend of different culture and influence in your identity. How do you balance these components of connecting with your root and heritage and at the same time integrating your new country and places that you currently live?
Yeah, I would say there's a lot of us now, more and more so, who are called third cultural kids.
Wow,
Or
yeah, that's
so
a new
third
word. And
culture are children that are moved. Perhaps they don't even grow up the culture that's their original culture. They may not even grow up in the culture that's the one that they're living in, right?
yeah,
So it's they have moved a lot basically.
right.
And I certainly identify as somebody who has changed and learn through all the places that I've been. Um, and try to learn from each place, and I try
Mm,
to establish, some of the good practices and the good ideas and the good understanding that I can gain from each place, and that kind of becomes me as a person, right? In terms of connecting to my Asian heritage, Chinese heritage, while living in the UK. So last couple of years, I haven't had many opportunities during COVID time to go back to China, as did most
same for
Chinese
me.
foreigners,
Yeah.
right? So, but that doesn't mean that we diminish our connection to our family. One of the
Mm.
great ways we connect with our families is through food, right?
Yes,
Yes.
celebration for dumplings and
Yes,
mooncake.
exactly, exactly. And that is something that we are just so immensely blessed to have in our heritage, right? And of course, there's keeping up with reading or watching or learning from different sources, whether it's online or offline, to make sure
Mm,
that I'm still understanding what the current market landscape is in China through social media mostly, and also going back once in a while, right, to experience and
yeah.
to see and to try out new things. Every time I go back, I tell my cousins to upload me all the newest apps on my phone.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try them all. I'm gonna see what's
Mm,
popular in China, what's going on, what are people thinking, and go to all the kind of interesting new shops that's
mm,
happening to really immerse myself in that culture.
yeah.
I think how wonderful, right? How wonderful that I'm I'm so privileged to have the opportunity to experience different cultures and to learn from them.
Yeah.
And just I feel so grateful for that.
Mm. Thank you for sharing. I love that you mentioned the gratitude. I
Mm,
think that's how I feel as well in experiencing different worlds, different culture has changed my life tremendously.
mm,
And exactly, I feel what you said about learning from each places and still be able to appreciate where we are from, using food, using those little ritual or
yeah.
something to connect us with our ancestor. That's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And on this topic, I have rather a selfish question because, a Chinese expat living in Germany, in Berlin,
Hmm.
and I sometimes have this feeling of maybe a little bit of a conflict or struggle in how do I establish my personal branding while speaking a foreign language in a different country and culture while still be authentic in a way that I speak English. I live
Hmm.
in Germany. Most people speak German. And my audience are most Asian women, expat
Hmm.
living abroad. But I'm also Chinese. So if this makes sense,
Yeah.
how could I actually make it authentic and natural and wholeheartedly?
What makes you think that you are not already
Hmm.
authentic and wholeheartedly and
Yeah,
showing up for your audience? What makes you think that?
that's a good question. Maybe it's part of me overthinking, or perhaps I'm wondering, should I just speaking Chinese and just working with Chinese audience instead because we are
Hmm.
more resonate with each other in the same language and culture, but at the same time I felt quite comfortable working with other Asian women as well who speak English, might not
Hmm.
have the exact same background but still share similar perhaps limiting beliefs or maybe challenges living abroad. So I guess my question is, should I limit myself to my own Chinese people, or
Hmm.
should I rather
Hmm.
open it up?
I think it depends on where do you think the value that you're adding is most beneficial to your audience. Coming back
Mm,
to let's forget about you for a second. Who in your audience have told you, right? Wow, Lynn, you are amazing. The
mm,
things that you're sharing on social media, the podcasts that you're doing really resonated with me, and I'm learning so much from you. And this is what I'm learning from you. From those people, can you understand, where are the core values and core benefits that you're offering them?
yeah.
And then you can think, okay, does that apply to just mostly just English-speaking Asian women, or is there also it's more beneficial if I more target more for Chinese women living in China? So
Yeah.
you think about that and think about if your goal is to gain a reach and to grow your audience, think about which audience might be able to benefit most from you. I will also say, technically speaking, because China's internet is blocked. So if you
Mm.
were to try to reach a Chinese audience in China, you have to think, do I have the resources and ability to build that brand?
Yeah.
If I'm speaking Mandarin on YouTube, there's lots of people that can watch it, but you're not really engaging with a Chinese audience. Maybe that's okay. So you have to
Mm.
think about like practicalities of which channel might work for you, as well as what is the most beneficial thing for the most amount of people
Yeah.
that especially with your background and what you're talking about, can offer.
Yeah. So back
Yeah,
to the step one of the
yeah,
positioning, the problem that I'm solving for whom exactly.
exactly.
So thank you for coaching me. That's really, really useful. Thank
I
you.
was just having a conversation.
Yeah, but I think it's a really great perspective that sometimes I might have this blind spot that I cannot see on
I
my own.
wonder though, also, I'm not saying you have this, I'm just saying that a lot of people, generally women, tend to
Mm.
have imposter syndrome as well.
Yes,
So I
absolutely.
wonder if that's something that I'm getting a tiny hint of you
Yeah,
thinking perhaps you're not showing up in some way.
could be. I actually ran a workshop myself last year with another coach on exactly the imposter syndrome. I think you're right that a lot of women, including myself, have this imposter syndrome often coming up as self-doubt,
Mm-hmm.
as a way of sometimes self-sabotaging as well,
Mm-hmm.
and prevent me from getting more opportunities or showing up as my full potential.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for bringing that up. There's something to look into again on this one. Do you have any thoughts or tips
I
on this
think
point?
people ask me this, like, how do I be the most authentic self online?
Yeah.
The truth is you can't,
Okay.
right? Okay? You cannot, because yourself, your whole self does not live on the internet
Right.
only, right? And if my purpose to be showing up on the internet is to offer value to others, I need to frame and mold my brand in a way that I can do that, right?
Mm.
Sometimes, you might share things or disclose things that are not helpful to your audience. It's true, but may not be helpful to other people, perhaps even damaging to other people.
Yeah.
So in that case, the thing to do is to honor your listeners, honor your audience, and love them. And
Mm.
it means withholding certain things. So I don't think that's being inauthentic. I think it's just you are there to give value to others. You're there also most likely to have a professional goal as well. So those have to be kept in mind. It doesn't
Right.
mean that, just because you want to be authentic, you can start talking about, I don't know, what you had for breakfast and all these things that are really not adding value to anyone unless you
Right.
are a breakfast influencer
Yes.
on LinkedIn, right? Like
Yeah.
it's true, it's great, you living your authentic life, but
Mm.
if it's not adding value to other people, why do that?
Yeah. I see your point of this balance between being authentic and be able to show up with your strengths, but perhaps at times can also be vulnerable, but at the same time, not overly expose something might not add value or necessary. Do I get it right?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just saying that if you struggle to quote be authentic, then come back to how do you then add value to others? Come back to that.
Yeah, come back
Yeah,
to that.
and forget about because the truth is you just can't be 100%.
Yeah, that's
Um,
that's
because even I am different
mm,
to like you know my family to my best friend,
yeah, of
right? I'm
course.
showing different facets of myself to different people, then that's just
Yeah,
how naturally it goes.
yeah,
So am I inauthentic with my friends or with my family? No, I'm just showing a different side of me. And when we're online, we're showing a professional side of ourselves. We're showing a value-adding side of ourselves. That's that's the purpose. And we have to understand that.
Totally. Thank you.
Yeah.
So as you talked about the AI influencer earlier, and also AI and technology is the area that you're passionate about and your focus of the business. What's your take on AI's influence and change in branding and marketing?
Yeah. So I'm very, very passionate about technology. I would call myself a techno optimist, somebody who
Okay.
believes in optimistic about the future that technology holds.
Yeah.
And AI is very exciting to me as a tool. At the same time, this is a very infancy of this technology. In terms of its ability to take over my job, it's very, very unlikely at this stage.
Okay.
What I'm learning is there are certain things potentially that could be useful to have AI give you idea generation, sometimes research, sometimes image manipulation, and things like that.
Yeah.
There are useful aspect to it that we can utilize in branding and marketing. But what I'm seeing is uh, because of the speed of which AI can create stuff, sometimes the market can be overflooded with poor quality content.
Mm,
How many of the blog posts and articles that are written out there or posts out there are AI generated that doesn't have that human take? It's
yeah.
just saying things that's already been said, doesn't really have creative energy. I think we need to be very careful as creators when we're using these tools. And there's also lots of ethical considerations as well,
Yeah.
right? How do we then make sure when we're using these AI tools that we're not excluding to certain cultures or people or discriminating against them without even realizing it? Because the
Yeah.
data that's been
We are
fed in
biased.
is not great. We've got to worry about the bias, like you said.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
maybe in 10 years, it could be really good.
Yeah, we can have another conversation in a few years and see how technology evolves. But I love what you mentioned about how do we balance the efficiencies and leverage these tools to make our content creation and personal branding more easier and fast and efficient, but at the same time not losing our human touch and our innate creativity, which really is the essence of your personality and your personal brand.
For sure. I mean, you could have this whole conversation with an AI bot, I'm sure. I'm
I
sure.
hope not. Yeah, I loved our real and authentic conversation. And I couldn't help wonder what would this be like in a few years down the road. But I'm also very excited and curious, like you mentioned. I still see so many more benefit and upside over the downside of AI, but definitely the ethical consideration, how do we utilize it is the key here.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, cool. I'm wondering the next step for you, and do you have any exciting project and new initiative coming up? And what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, so oval branding, we're in our 9th year now. So we love to work with more technology-minded companies. We also have strong experience in sustainability and clean tech as well. So those projects always fascinate me. AI projects for sure. And the services we tend to offer include like branding, brand management, marketing like advertising, influencer marketing, social media, and we just love to meet new people and learn about what they're working on. For personal brands as well, if you are a founder of a company or someone who wants to promote your personal brand, even if you're just looking for new opportunities and could have a few consulting sessions on how to make your brand better, that's something we can work with. And for financial services, venture capital firms, private equity firms, gaming companies, cross-border companies, we love to work more on those projects. And another thing that I'm doing right now is I'm also doing some teaching and mentoring for universities. So that's something I would like to get into more. Right now, I'm working with the University of the Arts London, also with the University of Westminster in London. So, more opportunities, and that would be really great because I love hearing new ideas and working with young people because they have the best, sometimes the best ideas, right? So I love that energy.
Wonderful. So many initiatives, and I can't wait to see what's new coming up. I hope to have opportunity to join one of your workshop, your teaching in university. And before we end, I would love to hear if there is one learning or insight that you want our audience to take away from today's episode. What would that be?
I would just come back to the most important thing about personal branding, which that it's not about you and it's about adding value to others, right?
Yeah.
If when in doubt, come back to that. That will hopefully give you some insights when you're building a brand. Actually, not just personal brands, but also corporate brands. Just remember, who are you serving and how can you better serve them?
Yeah. Amazing. Always think about the value added to others and the market. Thank you for the wonderful wisdom and how people and company can connect with you if they would like to work with you or collaborate or learn more about your work.
So our website is ovalbranding.com. If you're interested in seeing a personal website, you can look at my personal website as well. It's KaitlinZhang.com. And please add me on LinkedIn and we can chat from there or find a time to book a call.
Sounds good. I will leave all the contact in our show notes.
Perfect. Yeah.
And it's such a wonderful time talking with you, learning from you, Kaitlin, on personal branding, on public speaking, on our identity, on AI, and so much more. And I really, really loved this conversation, and I hope to have opportunity to work with you again in the future.
Yeah, for sure. Then it's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, and all the best.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning into the Heritage Show. If you found this episode helpful, share it with a friend or colleague who's building their personal brand. Don't forget to subscribe so you will not miss upcoming episodes featuring honest conversations with inspiring women around the world. And if this sparked ideas or questions, I'd love to hear from you. Send me a message anytime. Take care. Until next time.